I'm cutting it a little bit close for announcements since I know Nintendo's press conference is tomorrow. But I figured I might as well get through the last two predictions for E3 press conferences this year, which are Nintendo and Square Enix, both on Tuesday. And these are the two of the companies that I think... I mean, they're a little bit opposite, because I think Nintendo has a lot of different games they could really show off and would be very interesting to see. And I think Square Enix has most of their games already known about. The only big reveal is probably going to be Hitman. Everything else we know about at this point, but Nintendo's a little bit interesting because they always got something new up their sleeve. They're always going to announce several games. I think we got like 6 new games or more at last year's E3. Whether in the press conference or afterwards. I remember they announced Codename Steam later that night. But I got a few predictions here. The first is a Pikmin 3DS game. So, Pikmin is developed by one of Nintendo's internal teams, obviously. But it's the same team that makes the new Super Mario Bros. Series as well as Big Brain. And this is the development team that's currently making Super Mario Maker. But they have a history of making several games at the same time. And one of them, like I remember in 2013, they released new Super Mario Bros. Games alongside Pikmin 3. So I think... And the producer for Pikmin 3 generally also produces new Super Mario Bros., but apparently he isn't actually part of that team at the moment. He might be there as like a side producer, but it's not exactly known if he's actually producing. So I think he actually has another project in the works, and if that's the case, it's probably a Pikmin game, since that seems to be the one he does on the side. But we already had Pikmin 3 for the Wii U, and we already know that the Wii U is going to have quite a bit of a good lineup this year. So, and then we know the 3DS is not. It has kind of a dry spell the past year, and we know there's not going to be a mainline Pokemon game this year, so there's nothing to really boost sales at all. So I feel like this would be the time for them to announce a rather big series. Pikmin may not be the biggest; it's kind of one of their B or C franchises, I guess. So I expect to see that for 3DS rather than Wii U. But it'll sell well, even if it's a B franchise. Just because people do like Pikmin. Plus, that game would probably work very well on a handheld. You could. Time constraints can be a little bit annoying, but if you can just close the 3DS and avoid the problem, then it's a little bit easier, I suppose. So, my second and third predictions are going to feed into each other for Nintendo. The first is actually Nintendo Land 2. So when the Wii U launched, it launched with Nintendo Land, and I ended up comparing it to Wii Sports, which launched alongside the Wii. 3 years after Wii Sports launched, they announced Wii and released Wii Sports Resort. It has been 3 years since the Wii U launched, so there's a chance they could be looking for a sequel to that game. But what I realized at a certain point was that the Wii Sports Resort was announced and released because they had a new peripheral. They had Wii Motion Plus. And the Wii U doesn't really have a new peripheral or technology that I might consider using. But then I realized that it actually does. And that's in the form of Amiibo. And this is where my third prediction is going to tie in. Because even if it doesn't have to do with Amiibo, I think they have Nintendo on too, but if it does have to do with Amiibo, it'll tie into number 3, which is that Nintendo will need to release a Amiibo-centric game, a game that will not work unless you have Amiibo. And this is kind of something that I thought that they should have had from the very beginning. But it didn't really happen, and they ended up just integrating it into other games, which I would have been fine if they had the full game on the side, like the game that I need to have Amiibo for. And hell, I still buy them. I have a nice collection behind me on the shelf, but I was really hoping for like a game centered around it, and I think Nintendo Land could be it. You use an amiibo to bring out an attraction, or bring out more levels to a certain attraction. Hell, it could be just an add-on to the original Nintendo Land, and I'd probably be perfectly fine with it. One of the other things that I would have liked to see is a MOBA, Nintendo MOBA, like Super Smash Arena sort of thing, where your champions are all the amiibo, and you use them for certain things. But I thought it'd be a little weird since we know there's certain amiibo that don't seem very fit for fighting, I suppose, such as the, I suppose, Toad. But then again, even in games like League of Legends and Dota 2, there are certain characters that are not meant to fight, they're meant to support. And Toad, characters like Toad, or characters that don't normally fight, may have a good place just acting as a support character or something along those lines. One of the other things that I think will happen with amiibo-centric titles is actually possibly a Skylanders or Disney Infinity beginning to start using Nintendo amiibo in their games. If anyone listens to the Giant Beast cast on Giant Bomb, they actually talked with Jeff Gerstmann, who was at a Skylanders event for their new expansion, which is hitting later this year. And he actually raised the question to them, just floated the question to them to see if they would answer or give some sort of sign as to what their thoughts on the idea of amiibo functionality in their games were. And he was not certain as to whether or not the first sentence they said was, we're just focusing on our game at the moment. But the very next sentence, and he was sure to explain that he wasn't exactly sure if it was connected to the previous sentence, but it was the very next sentence. The very next sentence was, we'll have something big to announce at E3. So, I honestly think that it actually, there is a connection there. I think it's entirely possible they announced that amiibo will have functionality in the new Skylanders game. The new Skylanders game is actually focused around vehicles rather than just the characters. And I think there's actually something that's going to lead us to a bit of a crossover here, because last year at IGN, Miyamoto actually said that he would really like to see an R-Wing amiibo. The R-Wing is the ship from Star Fox. And hey, if you're going to start making vehicles from Nintendo games, then that's going to fit right into Skylanders, and it would work perfectly. Now, I'm not exactly big on Skylanders themselves. I don't really buy any of them. I kind of hate what they've done to the Spyro's design, to be honest. But, I mean, that would be a pretty big motivator to consider buying them. And for parents that are looking into buying Skylanders for their kids, use of amiibo would definitely, I think that'd be a huge selling point to buying it on a Nintendo console specifically. So I think that could be very big. Yep, so that's that prediction. And that's all three of my Nintendo predictions. I will be back shortly with my Square Enix predictions. So the final conference of this year is going to come from Square Enix putting on their first conference. And when you talk about Square Enix, you generally think of JRPGs. And of course, people are definitely very psyched about two of the bigger ones they have, which are Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Well, we know Final Fantasy won't necessarily be there. We know it'll be at Gamescom later this year and Tokyo Game Show. But we are expecting a short trailer, so like a kind of like a hype video. But we're definitely expecting some more from Kingdom Hearts, which should be very interesting. That'll be one of my later predictions. I'll talk about that a bit. But for the first prediction, I think the one thing that when people first talk about Square Enix, they tend to forget is that they own Eidos Interactive, as well as several different Western developers that are all coming out with games very shortly. And so my first prediction is that virtually all of the show gets taken up by those games, and we don't, rather than the JRPGs that Square Enix is known for. I mean, they have Triad Wars, which is this little spin-off of Sleeping Dogs. They have Just Cause 3 they're probably going to go into. Triad Wars they might not go into, but Just Cause 3 they'll definitely go into. They might go into a little bit into Rise of the Tomb Raider. It is an Xbox One exclusive, so it's possible it just shows up at Microsoft's press conference. It doesn't show up anywhere later. They have Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, which will definitely be there. And we're expecting to hear information about a new Hitman game as well. So, while I think they're only going to go over a few games, if you saw Bethesda's press conference last night, you saw a full hour, which was generally taken up by about 5 games, with a few small surprise announcements therein, and I think we might get a few of those, even in these past few predictions where I haven't really given them out. But yeah, I think most of it is actually going to be just Eidos rather than JRPGs. There will be JRPGs. There are definitely a few games. They have Bravely Second coming out soon. Oh, there goes an alarm. That's terrible timing for a video, I suppose. Sorry about that. Oh, and they also have Life is Strange, the episodic story about like time traveling, I suppose, is a little bit like reversing time. But yeah, they'll definitely have their JRPGs. I mean, there is stuff like Bravely Second, Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and there's also, I think they announced a Star Ocean game. And we also know there's Dragon Quest around. So yeah, my second prediction is for Kingdom Hearts. Actually, my last 2 predictions are both for Kingdom Hearts. The second prediction is that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to include Star Wars. It's a little bit weird because EA is supposed to have exclusive rights to Star Wars in video games, I suppose. I'm saying that I suppose a lot. Jeez, it feels awful when you realize that. But yeah, EA is supposed to have rights to Star Wars games, but it doesn't seem as if they have full control over it. I mean, Disney Infinity is still coming out with Star Wars content, though that is Disney, so I mean they might have allowed control of that. But like, I think including Star Wars stuff into your game might be fine. Is still fine in a way, as long as the game isn't about Star Wars. Kingdom Hearts is about Disney stuff, and I think Star Wars would actually fit in there. I'm not sure about Marvel, as cool as that would be, but Star Wars I can definitely see fitting in there fine. A world with Star Wars would be very great. A huge selling point for that game if it was in there. I mean, people would go crazy if there was Star Wars in Kingdom Hearts. Like, I don't even really like the series myself. I don't like the controls very much, and I felt like the level design, especially in the first game, were just awful. But hey, if there's Star Wars in it, I will buy it. I will go all out. I will show up, and I will purchase that game. I mean, I will purchase EA games to play Star Wars, so you can tell that I have a very easy to sell to. Just put Star Wars in your game, and I'll buy it. Except for The Force Unleashed 2, I didn't buy that. So third and last prediction is for Kingdom Hearts again, and I'm gonna put my money down on there being a release date. This is probably one of the most far off predictions that I've made this year, but I mean it's kind of weird because we had Fallout 4 get announced, get shown off, and then given a release date within like two weeks. And yeah, it's been developed for a while, and Kingdom Hearts 3, I guess, has been in development at least since E3 2013, so it's had 2 years. And probably a little bit more. I mean, they had to put the time in to make those that CG trailer when it was announced. So I figure that they've had some time to work on it. If it comes out it may or may not come out at the end of the year. It may not be a definitive release date. I think at the very least it'll be a release window. They might say like 2016 or spring 2016. But oh man, it'd be so great if they just like, hey, it's coming out in November or December alongside the Star Wars movie, and then they have Star Wars in the game. And I'm just like, that'd be the best thing they could do. That'd be one of the smartest things they could do. I'm not sure how EA would like to go up against it, but if you're gonna announce Star Wars in your game, then yeah, no, go for releasing the game when Episode 7 comes out. You'll make all the money. And that is the last of my predictions for this year. All right, it's been great. It's been great to finally get through this. Hopefully, I have this video up today rather than tomorrow when the press conference is, and hopefully like afternoon rather than evening, so that people actually have time to watch it and before leaks or something gets out about the Nintendo Digital event or the Square Enix press conference tomorrow. All right. Well, this has been Evan for the DKSC. I'll see you all later.